Thank you very much.
So I should have worn my Vans, but I don't.
You should have.
But I don't have any. But I can give you my address.
We call that team blowing it in our industry. Hi.
So welcome to CreatorWorld. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you're going to be back here tomorrow as well. But a bit of an introduction. Who are you? What do you do for Vans? I think most important question is how do you and the brand work with creators?
My name is Elijah Kislevitz. Hi. I am the marketing director for Vans Asia, excluding China as of recent, which I'm very thankful of, just because of how challenging that market is right now. But pretty much from Seoul down to New Zealand. And yeah, my job and all is to make sure that we're driving in the corporate spectrum aligned content and stuff that drives, basically it's a lot of corporate jargon. What we try to do is we try to come up with really cool concepts, apply it back to product that people want. And again, why we're here to talk about it today is why does it matter to you guys, and as people who want to create and be involved, how can you create and how can you be involved in a brand that's got 55, 56 years and kind of prides itself on creative expression? So that's what we do.
It is one of the cooler jobs on the planet, right?
It's pretty cool, I can't lie.
Now tell me, then how do Vans, is it do Vans or does Vans? How does Vans work with creators?
So Vans, strangely enough, I'll give you the short 30-second heritage history on it. Vans started off in the 60s really as a family shoe, Vans for the family by the Van Doren family. What kind of put it in its positioning of having, call it permission from the youth of that point, could talk like mid 60s, late 60s, was in California. There was, if you guys know the Lords of Dogtown, surf was big and skate was big. They just started learning how to skate, and there was a lull, so there was not a whole lot of surf going on. There was also a drought, so swimming pools were empty. You couldn't swim. So kids started breaking into people's backyards and skating in the bowls to kind of curve that surf itch. And as they were doing that, they were blowing through their shoes really fast. And a lot of the shoe stores at that time in the 60s, people were still pretty conservative, and they'd go to these shoe stores and want to buy one shoe. And the people would be like, get lost, hippie, get lost, deadbeat, get a job. And they went to the Vans store in Anaheim, California. They're like, hey man, can we buy a shoe? And they're like, sure you can. Here's a shoe. So that kind of became the place they would start going to. A few years later, as skateboarding became more and more of this kind of phenomenon and less of just a wooden toy with wheels, and skate community started actually having a voice, these skaters started going back to brands and stores saying, hey man, it'd be really cool if you could, before they could finish their sentence, the doors would slam in their face. Get lost, hippie, get a job, bum. They went to the Vans store, and Steve Van Doren was like, what do you need? They said, hey, if you could put a little cushion right here and there, it'd be really cool. And they went in the back and they did it. And that kind of created a relationship between kids of that time and creators of really what they were. Skateboarding was the most early form of creative expression, and Vans. And ever since then, it was kind of like an aha moment. It wasn't a matter of we're going to brand you. It was kind of like, yeah, we respect what you're doing and we support you, we back you. And that really from skateboarding has gone into surf, it's gone into BMX, it's gone into art, it's gone into music. And over the past 50 or 60 years, it never has been really pointing out one person saying, hey, like you're going to be our ambassador. It's been more along the lines of creating stuff with creatives in that sphere that really they work in a dichotomous relationship to keep that creative expression growing. So that was more than 30 seconds, but that's how it kind of starts.
No, I've never heard the swimming pool story. That's fascinating.
I got one more for you if you want. So the hashtag, or the tagline of Vans is off the wall, yeah? Cool story of how it started. So back, I think it was in 1971 or 72, skateboarding again, there was these contests, and they weren't like they are today. They're pretty kind of, we look at them now and be like kind of cheesy, but whatever, it was the 70s. And in this one particular contest, you had 3 key athletes. You had Tony Alva, you had Jay Adams, and you had Stacy Peralta. If you guys know Stacy Peralta skateboards, might be a little too young of a crew for Stacy Peralta, but Jay Adams was kind of a crazy dude. If you've never seen The Lords of Dogtown, see The Lords of Dogtown. awesome documentary, really good movie. And this one particular part of the contest, no one was doing airs or stuff like that. They were, spinning around and carving and doing 1960s stuff. And Jay Adams came in and really fast and went off this ramp and boosted off the ramp, out of the ramp, came back in, fell, but it was the first time anybody had ever seen that. And Steve Van Dorn and his brother were in the things. They're like, dude, that was off the wall. And hence, Off the Wall came to be, which is, again, Jay Adams doing something different, didn't land it, but it didn't matter. It was something creative and it really changed the whole perspective of what skateboarding was and ended up being. Off the Wall.
Cool, there you go. I mean, the whole idea is for everyone to learn something new this week, so I've already started. Tell us about how you're working with creators today.
How we work with creatives today actually is one of the things that I enjoy the most. I unfortunately don't get a chance to work with them directly. It's really as we look at our countries, again, Japan and Korea, and Malaysia is a fantastic example. Here in Singapore, of the talents that we see, and the talents aren't a matter of, again, pitching to us. It's really seeing what they're doing in the community that's different. And that difference where you're like, wow, that's cool. And how is that impacting people around them in that circle? Is it just me thinking it's cool? Is it the people in that community thinking it's cool? Is it different? How is it engaging? How does it tie back to something that could be, if given the right support or given the right injection of fuel, even bigger than itself? So we really work from a country level and community level all the way up. And again, we try to start off in a very beginning phase. For those of you who are from Singapore, for the past 5 years, 6 years, we have regular, in the Van store in Bugis and in Ion, and a few of the others before COVID, we do it, but we have workshops every weekend. And the workshops are focused on local creatives that maybe don't have a platform, maybe we just came across them by accident, we're like, yo, that's really cool. And we bring them in, and basically what they do is they do what they do on our canvas, no pun intended. And we have them do it in these workshops. They're free for everybody. You can come in, and the whole idea is to have them engage with a broader audience. For that, it's kind of a learning experience in terms of, does the audience like what they're doing? And if they do, it's kind of like a little bit of a matrimony made in heaven. It's like, I'm so glad we could make this happen. At the same time, it's the opportunity for the creative to really see if they enjoy working with a bigger group of people. And also, if any of you have ever worked in retail is kind of like the F&B industry. I can't say it's thankless, but if you're a retail staff, the amount of people you deal with every day and the kind of different people you work with every day, you have stories of, man, I had the worst day today, or I met this great person today. So you meet a lot of different kind of people. And that's really the positioning we try to put these creatives into to really figure out if we were to further work with this individual, what kind of individual are they? Do they want to work with more people? Do we have them maybe just work on a cool graphic that we turn into t-shirts down the line for next year? Do we bring them to a house of Vans in London to be doing something of that nature? So it's really a bottom-up approach with the creatives and really figuring out, is there a way to work with them? And if so, in what facet and what channel? So
is there a specific need, and do they have to be skateboarders? Do they have to be sport? Do they have to be sports influencers? What are the needs and what are the nices?
That's a good question. So for a brand like Vans, we have what we call 4 pillars. It used to be 4, now it's 3. The last one was kind of lame. It was called what do we call it? Street culture. It's like the pillar. It's like the closet or the box you have that you don't know what to put in it, so you throw everything in it. So we got rid of that one. So now it's pretty much action sports led by skate. So you got skate, BMX, surf, and snow. Music. And music we've been very focused on and trying to, again, figure out, we're not a music label. How do you incorporate something like music that's so wide and so vast and so people have such opinions on it? How do you weave that into your storytelling? And how do you support? And then last but not least would be art. And again, art's a very broad one too. I mean, there's so many definitions of what art is or what art isn't, who's an artist, who's not an artist. But again, it's more playing room to say it's not one thing. It's not just one thing, it's several things. So in these 3 areas, really art is the easiest one to bring back to, again, no pun intended, our canvas. How do we have somebody work on a tote bag or on a shirt or on a pair of shoes? And maybe not just for them, maybe it's for other people. Maybe it's for social media use. Maybe it's for a bigger application. So I think on that one, the art one is the most applicable as it comes to our stores and product and working with people. music is one, again, that we feel pretty strongly about. And the music reference kind of comes back to skateboarding, where, again, over the years, you'd have people who would just decide to wear, a pair of Old Schools or skate highs. And, you look at Henry Rollins from Black Flag, and one of the most fit... Black Flag, anybody? Anybody? No? Yes, it is. Okay, I got one back there. So Black Flag, look it up if you haven't. Henry Rollins, lead singer, he's pretty insane. And there's an epic picture of him literally diving off the stage, head over heels, wearing a pair of skate highs, caught in black and white, and it became an iconic picture. It's like, oh, fans is involved in music. And even to now, we have people who are supported with product capsules. Anderson .Paak, who was recently in town, he's not an ambassador. He's just part of kind of the larger Vans family, where he digs what we do, we dig what he does. He's incredibly creative, and we were able to kind of come up with bigger product packs and storytelling around him. So again, for music, there's so many applications of music. We for 5 years here in Singapore and around the region ran Vans Musicians Wanted. And the whole idea was having this platform where, as long as you were an established musician, you could put your content up on this basically forum. And it wasn't judged by us, it was judged by all of your peers. And that was the coolest thing. We weren't the judges, your peers were the judges. Meaning that if you were a good marketer of yourself, you'd say like, hey man, go vote for me. And over 5 years, even in Singapore, this tiny little country, I think in 2020, kind of when the pandemic was rolling out and no one could go outside, even from in people's living rooms, we had something like 450 submissions, which was from Singapore insane. So again, music lives on. Music's the kind of weapon that binds everybody. And when you have that music, you could have people playing in your stores. We could have stages where we support. We could bring, just based off of Vans, we're doing a classics campaign and say, hey, we're going to do 5 shows this month. We're going to do one at, again, I'm making it up, House of Vans, like a barber shop and the pizza shop and the record label and there, and all of you guys are going to play there. 50 people, just because.
So that's let me get this right. Bands, fans, and Vans.
Yes.
You can steal that. You can steal that.
I'm not going to steal that.
Obviously, with all the Music Matters stuff that we've done, I'm a huge fan of everything you've done, and the Vans tour in the States and stuff. But how has your relationship with the creator community evolved over time, or is it a one-way thing where you have someone who endorses the product, you're their client, and that's it, or has it evolved into more of a partnership?
It really, honestly, it really depends on the individual. Again, the goal is not to paint your flag on somebody. I think the role of us as people who try to incubate and again give that talent a roadmap or the support that we feel they can get. It's not again to say, hey, because I supported you here or there, therefore like you owe me, or we're there here for the long road. I can give an example. I think back in 2017, we had, again, our Vans Musicians Wanted. And there were some bands that played that were pretty incredible. And in the last 5 acts that were, again, voted the most, Shy was the winner of that particular year. And she went on to Guangzhou, where she played with all the regional talents. And although she didn't, quote-unquote, win and then go on to New York, for the region, she did great, and she was 16 at the time. So for a year or two, too, we worked with her, and we flowed her product. We tried to give her opportunities to play in different areas. But again, we're not a music label, so the idea was we'll support each other until there's, I don't want to say a better opportunity, but fair enough, she got a better opportunity. Spotify latched on to her. A few other brands are willing to give her more money or more opportunities to travel that we couldn't match. So for us, it was like, you know what? I'm just glad we were able to be that first footstep to get to where you are today. We're happy with that. And eventually down the line, maybe we'll kind of get back together again. But for now, aim for the stars. Go for it.
And what metrics do you look for? Is it about scale? Is it more about community? Or is it more about their genre?
I think it's not so much about the genre. I mean, there's so many genres these days. There's genres that I hear that I don't even know what they are. So it's not so much about the genre. I think it's really more about, knowing what the value of that individual is, knowing not just what we want, but how we can support. And then it's really looking in the community, like when you go to a show, and that's, again, I know it's a different topic, but first, like online versus offline. During the pandemic, there were so many online shows and concerts and music festivals. And yeah, they were cool, and it's all you could do at that period of time because people couldn't leave their living rooms. But I don't know about you guys, but like watching something on the screen and actually being in a show are two very different experiences. I would rather be in that show. I took, like as a quick side note, I took my wife to her first ever quote-unquote punk show at F1. We went and saw Green Day, and it was packed, and the mud was up to here. And my wife's not really into that stuff. She's like, it's dirty. I don't want to drink, there's too many people. And we were getting pushed, and she fell down, and she was covered in mud, and people were freaking out, and it was awesome. And afterwards, she was all scuffed up, and she was like, that was really cool. So kind of going back to the experiences, you see that crowd and you see the energy. And when we go back, for example, I'll use Shy as an example, and we see, again, these younger demographics of kids who are 14, 15, 16 years old. And there's 100 of them there, and they're singing her songs, and they're pumped. And all of a sudden, the music kicks off because there was a glitch in the back, and they're still singing with her, and there's no music. And you're like, dude, that's it. That's the magic right there. So I think it's the community that artist or the athlete or the athlete, musician, or the artist, thank you, has with their community. And when you see that, it's more along the lines of that's the magic. How do we support and how do we engage?
And I know that the world has changed a lot between brands and creators, not necessarily with Vans, but where the creator can be in control. They're not taking a storyboard anymore and being told what to do. They're saying to the brand, here's how I would like to communicate with my audience. And if you don't like it, we're not, but in Van's case, who pitches who? Are you pitching the creators or are they pitching you?
That's a really good question. It's changed quite a bit. In the past, we would really come up with these UGC, user-generated content platforms, in these spheres of action sports with a focus on skate, music with a focus on really identifying and supporting new talents in different genres, and again back to art or applied art to again really see what are kids creating, what are people creating. And through these platforms, again, the talent that would come up that we'd never seen before, people hadn't heard of, was inspiring to us. So it was really providing, and again, a bad movie example from back in the day, but Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And for us, that was really what we were looking at. If you provide that platform, and you have the permission, and you have the authenticity, and your viewership is like, yeah, I back that, I'm willing to do that, that's where we met in the middle. Now, again, it's kind of a little bit of a restart because we haven't been able to host these UGC platforms in some time. And now, again, the audience that we were speaking to 3 years ago are now 3 years older. So the ones that were 15 are now 18. The ones that are 20 are now 23. It's a little bit of a different time. So I think we're also trying to figure out right now is as we get back out into the world, as we re-engage with our audience, with our customers, with our friends, with our families, is how do we engage? Do we try to engage more in a digital way? Digital, NFTs, the metaverse, which is great, but I still go back to that example of the concert. It's still better to see a concert in person than it is online. So again, kind of balancing both expectations, we are at this point right now where we're really trying to have our cake and eat it too. How do we engage with people, but also bring it to an online platform? And it's, to be frank, something we're figuring out every day.
So Vans in the metaverse, maybe? That's an unfair question. So how is, if I'm a creator, if I fit into one of those three buckets, how do I get you to pick up my call?
What kind of creator are you?
I'm one of the three.
One of the three?
For someone here, what do they need to do to get you to answer their call?
So if you're an athlete, and there's no snow here, so if you surf or if you skate, really it comes down to just keep surfing and keep skating, and they'll notice. We'll notice. Send your clips in, be vocal. Again, that's on the skate side. I know it's a very small pool here. On the music side, again, the same thing. I would say that if you are an aspiring musician and you want that opportunity to somehow be involved with a brand like Vans or kind of any brand in the sphere, you got to make noise. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's like if you just make it and people don't hear it or you're not involved in other things, no one's going to know. And again, even for us, and my passion is music, so I try to keep my ear to the ground as much as I can, but I still rely on going to shows. I still rely on what I hear from my friends who work for Bandwagon, or what I hear from, the dude who used to run White Label, or what I see going on here. Like, I rely on them as platforms to see who's coming up. And I go to shows, I try to look, but if you're not out there and you're not performing, or you're not making noise, no one's gonna hear it. So don't go out there with the idea, again, of trying to get noticed. Just go out there and do your thing. And if you do your thing in the right way, you'll get noticed. Art's a different one. I think for art, the best way these days is honestly still through Instagram. If you've got something that you're working on, you think it's pretty cool, it can be applied. Again, think product. Or think of how, again, a brand or the person might want to engage with you. If you're sending a bunch of DMs like, oh, I don't know, I can crochet really cool drink holders. That's cool and all, but again, how is it going to relate back to the brand? For us, again, there's so much stuff that comes out. If you can figure a way out through, even think if you're in their seat or in their chair, that you're like, hey, I can do this really well. What's going to make it stand out for them? In terms of, oh, are they going to bring my thing into in-store? Can I do a workshop? Well, as a workshop, we want to do things on product. So how's it going to look on a pair of slip-ons? How's it going to look on a button-down? Could you do it in a hat? Think of it in that nature and actually do it, and then send through a picture. And I can almost guarantee you that if it works and it's cool, someone from one of the countries within Vans will reach back out and say, that's pretty cool. Are you down to have a conversation? But again, it takes a certain amount of proactivity and thinking again of if I was them, what's going to work. And it sounds like a duh thing, but there's a lot. If I showed you how many things that came through, you'd say, oh, yeah, it probably does have to be double down on that.
It sounds like the door's open, though. You're always interested to hear new ideas and meet new people.
Always.
That's awesome.
That's the best part of the job. It's either that or sitting in forecast meetings. Looking at cool stuff, forecast meetings. I'd rather look at cool stuff.
And getting pitched by 54-year-old ex-rugby players, UK size 10.
The US will win tonight. Just saying.
We're not talking about the football.
Apologies,
I said rugby.
Sorry.
We are not talking about football. Not until 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Final question then, Eli, and thank you so much for coming today, because this has been great. 2023, what's really exciting for you for the year ahead?
2023 is getting exciting, honestly, because as a brand that truly likes to engage with people in a tangible way, bringing music to the stores, coming up with music festivals, creating skate moments, creating skate videos, it's finally, at least in Asia, people are traveling. We can do things again. There's a silly example that might not have, it has no perspective here, but we had our first Fall 23 trade show last night in Jakarta for the Indonesia team. And I couldn't go, obviously, but I was looking at the recap, and it looked awesome. You had buyers from all over Indonesia, all the islands. They had everything set up. There was a band. The band was playing. I don't know if any of you guys know the band The Sigit. They're pretty big in Indonesia. Their lead guitarist named Absar, who skates for Vans, who's a super cool guy, very handsome.
Straight at Sammy for that.
Okay, super cool. And I look at this thing for the trade show, and he and his band are playing there in the corner, and the skaters are there. So that's kind of what gets me excited, that we're kind of back to a point where we can start engaging with our community again. We can do new stuff. We're sitting on 2.5 years worth of creativity that was never able to have a proper opportunity to get out there and do its thing. And now it's just it's open field day. So that's
Fantastic.
What I'm excited about.
Absolutely fantastic. We talked about the 3 areas you're in: action, sports, music, and art. You talked about don't paint your flag, which I thought was a interesting point. He's always be selling. And it's something that I'm always talking about. Never, ever, ever stop selling. And a lot of art in the arts world, they don't even realize they have to be selling. They think they've created the greatest work, and that's enough. So always be selling. And I think you said promote. But most importantly, for everyone here and tomorrow as well, for the workshop we're doing, the door is open. So if you're interested in vans and you fit those three buckets, then the door is open for Eli. So Eli, thank you so much for joining us at CreatorWorld. Great to see you. And we're going to go and have lunch. And after that, there are 2 workshops in the gallery that Jim is running, and the marketing summit, which is an invitation-only event in the treetops as well. So, but Eli, thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it. And thanks for hanging. Nice to talk to y'all.